If you had a resource that allowed you to find and hire the exact type of highly skilled, already trained, and ready to go employee you needed with the attitude and aptitude to work perfectly with your established staff, you can lower your costs significantly. How? Simple. Hiring and training new employees is expensive. Losing a trained employee because they didn't have what you needed or didn't fit in the group is also expensive. If you could always find the right people, you can lower costs significantly, get higher productivity from your entire staff, and grow your business using the best, most reliable, most highly skilled people. That, in a perfect nutshell, is exactly what Seek Recruiting LLC can do for your business. That's SEEC. That's because Seek Recruiting is talented professionals and careers connected. When you need skilled experts, Seek Recruiting LLC has them ready to go. Call 888-991-5833 to contact one of their highly skilled reps today. That's 888-991-5833 to contact one of their highly skilled reps today. Seek Recruiting LLC, talented professionals and careers connected. What is ID Life? Well, over the last 18 years, a group of scientists and doctors have been working on the development of a one-of-a-kind nutritional supplement program that takes all the guesswork out of what you need and delivers your truly personalized pharmaceutical-grade nutrition with your name on it directly to your door. Through the integration of thousands of medical and scientific studies, answers you provide to the free assessment, and more than 5,470 algorithms that process the data, ID Nutrition recommends what you need, leaves out what you don't, and blocks things known to the system to have possible adverse effects based on the answers you provide. The result is a program that is revolutionizing the health and wellness industry. Welcome to ID Life. For more information, just go to thedougstewartshow.idlife.com. That's thedougstewartshow.idlife.com. Hour number 2 of the Doug Stewart Show. Let's go, baby. It's hour number 2. Fantastic, freaky, funny Football Friday. Thank you so much for joining your boy. This is the Doug Stewart Show. The first full weekend of college football. I was gonna try to go home and see my mama, but they got real bad weather coming through there today. Supposedly there's a hurricane coming through. I don't know if it's going to actually hit South Carolina, but hurricanes, man, when they come on the eastern seaboard, they could be in Florida, but it affects South Carolina. And so evidently they got some real grave weather coming through there. So I'm not going to go home again. I was going to go see my mother, but I'm not going to make it again. Speaking of which, I talked about Somerville, my high school playing against the Somerville Green Wave, the Berkeley Stags. We lost last night, 35-15. We lost, I think the score was 35-15. We got a new head coach, first year. From what I understand, everybody's happy with him. He's doing good things, but it is Somerville. I can't even start to tell you the ass cuttings that we have taken from the Somerville Green Wave in my lifetime. I mean, but there's more to the story. We're going to get back to this college football here in a second, and the Doug Stewart Show is brought to you by footballsportsapp.com. There's more to the story, and I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses, but Somerville is a power. Like a power of the ultimate extreme end of the word. Their head coach just retired this past year, John McKissick. I'm going to guess he had been coaching at the same high school for 50 years. And I'm not joking. I think he was like 90 years old. And he was the all-time winningest coach in America. And they did a lot of shady stuff with zoning for the last 40 years that McKissick's been there. And Somerville, back when I was in school, in the mid-'80s, late '80s, they always dressed out 100 players. Right. I ain't lying. Tell the truth and shame the devil. They always dressed out 100 players. Back when everybody was riding to their away games on a school bus, they had Greyhound buses. This is no lie. And so probably in our, rivalry, and we're probably the biggest rival. There's no probably about it. I would say we're the biggest rival that Somerville's had consistently over the last 40 years at least that I know of. They probably, out of 40 times, we probably beat them 10, probably in the last 40 years. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Hopefully I'm wrong. But they've always had the upper edge on pretty much everybody. They've got a gazillion state championships. Once again, they got more students than us. But from what I understand, the kids played hard last night, man. Go Berkeley, go. We'll be okay. We're gonna get back to winning. We're going to get back to winning. We were talking about, before I jump back into this college football stuff and talk a little bit more about the fourth biggest game this weekend, the funky four biggest games, and you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show. You remember a couple of days ago we were talking about the national anthem in the last segment, or at least I was talking about it. You remember a couple of days ago I had mentioned that when I was in college that I thought that we had sung Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is the black national anthem, that I thought that we had done it exclusively. I talked to two different people, my man Kyle Dowling and Marcus Butts. These are two of my classmates at South Carolina State. I think Kyle is a little bit younger than me. But anyway, they confirmed that at South Carolina State, when we were in school, they actually sung both of them. And one of them thought that at the basketball games, it was exclusively the national black anthem. And at the football games, they did both of them, or they just did the national anthem. So maybe what I was saying in the last segment, I went to an HBCU, if you don't know, if you're just tuning us in for the first time, South Carolina State University. I talked about ignorance, and I had no idea the history of the national anthem. Clearly, they did. The university did, and maybe it was a situation where, they knew the racist aspect of the song, but maybe just as I said in the last segment, they felt still they should play it in honor of our servicemen. But at the same time, kind of like as a way to say, we know the racist history of this damn song, so we're also going to sing the national black anthem, which is Lift Every Voice and Sing. Maybe that was the thinking, and I don't know if it's still like that today, but I left that kind of unanswered a couple of days ago. And so, yeah, we sung the national black anthem at South Carolina State as well as the national anthem. All right? So, Ole Miss, I was about to say Mississippi State. Ole Miss takes on FSU Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, prime time. The game's taking place in Orlando at the Citrus Bowl, which they don't even call a Citrus Bowl no more. It's the number 11 Ole Miss Rebels taking on the Florida State Seminoles. Obviously, man, this is a bad look-up, and I don't know the history behind why they're playing this particular game there. Maybe it's one of those classics or something like that. But this is a home game for Florida State. I don't care how you look at it. I don't care any way you try to look at it. This is going to be a Florida State-heavy fan base. Actually, Florida State has great history playing in Orlando. They're 8-0-2, and you can go all the way back to 1952 of that. So whenever they're in Orlando at the Citrus Bowl, they do fantastic. Florida State's going to trot out a new starting quarterback, DeAndre Francis. I believe that's the way you pronounce that young man's last name. It looks French, Francos. So he's starting. Sean McGuire was hurt and after he fractured a bone in his foot during one of the preseason practices for the Florida State Seminoles. And, Chad Kelly's coming back for Ole Miss, Jim Kelly's nephew, who was ran out of Clemson a couple of years ago. But he's been doing pretty good down there at Ole Miss. So it's going to be a big game. This is going to be a huge game. Once again, there's a lot of big games being played early in the schedule. I kind of feel, I'm kind of like on the fence as far as should you play this big of a game this early in the year or not? Save it for the ending of the year. And the reasoning is if you play a game this early and you lose, you have enough time to, pile up a bunch of great wins, and you can find yourself back in place to vie for a national championship. And also, a lot of teams feel like they should play cupcake games early in the schedule just to fine-tune their team. So there's a bunch of different ways to look at it, man. It's kind of risky, but not too much if you believe that Florida State is one of the best teams in the country. Ole Miss has been playing great football over the last couple of years. Kelly's probably one of the best quarterbacks that they've had probably in the history of that organization and that program. This is a program that has had Archie Manning and Eli Manning and a couple of good quarterbacks that come through there, but they feel real strong about Chad Kelly and what the Rebels are going to do this year. All right, so clearly I'm rooting for Florida State. I'm rooting for Florida State. I don't root nothing Ole Miss. Nothing. Never have. You know how militant, how socially conscious I was as a 7, 8-year-old. I can remember as a 7, 8-year-old, maybe not 7, 8-year-old, maybe 10, 11, or 12-year-old, every once in a while, you'd see SEC games on. When I was growing up, what was it, Jefferson Pilot? They used to play all of the ACC games in South Carolina. So we always saw ACC games. Every once in a while, we would see SEC games, I think. South Carolina was actually an independent, and then they became part of the SEC, probably like in the late 80s. But even as a kid, whenever I'd see Ole Miss on TV, and those fans there at that stadium, they had like 1,000 gazillion small little rebel flags. I think at that point my old man had told me about the General Lee on the Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah. I think he told me the whole story about the damn rebel flag. And so if you don't know, if you're a greenhorn, they actually stopped doing this a couple of years ago because they got so much protest. But when fans used to walk into the stadium at Ole Miss, they were given a small little replica rebel flag. And so in the stands, 60, 70,000 fans all waving these rebel flags. And even at a young age, I was like, why do black players go and play for Ole Miss? I guess the thought of a free education, and maybe they didn't have an option to go to Auburn or Alabama or USC or Michigan State. So if you can get a free education, I get it. But that always bothered me, even as a young lad. And once again, they stopped doing it a couple of years because they got so much pressure from the public. But even as a youngin', I didn't think that was cool. So I'd never root for anything Ole Miss. Damn Ole Miss. Let's go Florida State. Beat Ole Miss. All right, when we get back from the break, time for some entertainment news. Yes, sir. We got a little entertainment. We'll talk some birthdays. Man, I got to get to the third biggest game this weekend, the Funky Four biggest games in college football, the first weekend, the first live, real weekend of college football. So we got to get into game number 3 here in a second. We'll do that. We'll read more of your chat. We got to talk UGA, Georgia Tech at some point, too. And we might have to do some bonus student day. I don't know. We might. Don't go away. The Doug Stewart Show.
Hey, what's going on, Stu Nation? This is Vince Wright, the sports governor from the great state of Minnesota. Want to thank you for listening to Sports Done Right every Wednesday here on SME. Make sure you keep it tuned here for me and all the other X Squad affiliate shows on SME. Peace.
You put some action on the football game and scored a big win, right? But now you got to wait weeks to collect your cash. Not cool. Nothing more frustrating. That's why thousands of online players are making the switch to MyBookie. MyBookie.lv is an industry-leading website. They offer real Vegas odds. I repeat, they offer real Vegas odds, not that play stuff. And they have incredible player props, live in-game action with odds, updated in real time, and as I told you, fast, no-hassle payouts when you win. Period. Here's what you need to do. Join now, and your first deposit will be matched dollar for dollar up to $1,000. You also get an extra 10% bonus when you sign up and deposit in the next 30 minutes. Use promo code PODCAST to activate that offer. Visit MyBookie today or call 844-900-BETS. That's 844-900-BETS. But don't forget, you have to use the promo code podcast